Well, welcome everybody. We wanted to give you a little taste of what it's going to look like for next year in first grade, as well as not have another Zoom meeting. So we have put at the beginning of this the state of the school, just to go through our strategic plan, give you an idea of what to look forward to in the years to come, and sort of let you know what we've got planned, what may have changed, what hasn't, and at the end we'll be asking questions. So we'll open that up. You can either put questions in the chat room or unmute yourself. So I always like to start out with these vision and mission statements. The vision are your children. So at the end of the day, after they have graduated from 8th grade, or if you choose to use St. Benedict's as a jumping off point, we are hoping, and this is our vision, that children will have a confident, courageous, and compassionate leadership style that they can share with the world. And by leaders, we really are looking for children who understand what makes them different, and why we're a K through 8 school. I'll get into a little bit of that in a little bit. But being able to respect the diversity that is in each class, not just of either race, culture, religion, but also what makes us unique. And so that is all grounded in faith. Our mission is embodied by our teachers who you're going to meet. They are our heroes this year. I don't know if I'm going too far at all by saying they've put their life on their line for your children to be at St. Benedict's in person. And those of you who are remote, you all know very well how good Miss Jenny is for your kids. So they're inspiring learning every day. They nurture growth, not just academically, but social, emotionally, and in faith. And embracing Episcopal values is this next slide. If you walk into any Episcopal school, these two blue circles represent what we stand for as an Episcopal education. Inclusive, diverse community, building community, being aware of what voice is at the table, making sure all voices are at the table, have a voice at the table. It's grounded in love and respect and faith at the end of the day, being able to worship together, whatever our faith is, and being able to respect that in the life of our children. And then at St. Benedict's, collaborative learning environment is what makes us unique. Having teachers be able to come together, share ideas, understand each other's learning differences in the classroom, and being able to share that with one another gives academic excellence is what we're striving for. So why would you stay with us until the 8th grade, and why aren't we growing into a high school? This is quintessentially who we are. Being able to understand leadership is a big part of this. Again, building the confidence of your children, having them be able to self-advocate for themselves and explore who they are, not just with their friends, but in their learning environments. As they get into middle school years, St. Benedict's is small enough where we are able to catch them when they fail. And being able to allow children to fail is a big part of growth. As many of us have experienced in life, most of our growth comes when we are at our lowest. And then being able to build children back up again in the middle school years. I don't know about you, but I didn't exactly enjoy middle school. My children went through St. Benedict's through middle school, and giving them the opportunity to decide where they're going to go next is a big part of what this is. Most of us got to the 12th grade. We were able to look at high schools and where we were going to go. We allow children to decide where they're going to go in the 8th grade. And these are some of the schools that they choose to go to. So you see some familiar schools here. Right in the middle, you see the Cobb Academic Division. That's the magnet schools. There's 7 different magnet schools all over Cobb County that no matter where you live in Cobb County, your child can apply to those schools depending on what makes them unique, what makes them want to learn, and what they want to explore in the future. So this is just a glimpse of where our children go, not just from 8th grade, but using St. Benedict's as a jumping off point. Strategic plan. Those of you who've been with us for more than 1 or 2 years, you know this. You may even have memorized it. These are the 8 objectives that we are trying to achieve before 2023. And before we get there, we're actually getting ready to plan for our next 5-year strategic plan. But as you look at these 8 objectives, I'm going to go through them one by one, and give you an idea where we are with the strategic plan. Big part of this is marketing and community communication. Hopefully you understand marketing as not just pretty colors, good social media, and advertising, but you understand marketing as who is sitting next to your child in the classroom. That makes you all the biggest marketing tool that we have. Word of mouth is huge. So being able to make that concise, and as you look through these bullet points and read through these, this is what we've been achieving and we are trying to achieve so that you have families around you that you want to hang out with. You have friends for your children that you feel confident are a good fit for their friendship and their friendship circles. Enrollment has started. So if you will begin to look at what that means for you next year, a big part of that for us, having two working families in our school, is financial aid. So the dates are there at the bottom. Today we're out in mass, maybe. We did it a little bit differently, but we are giving you an opportunity to put these signs in your yard. So this slide is a sign, actually, that's been printed. We have plenty of them. If you want a sign to put in your yard, that's a great way to let everybody know that you're part of this community. If you can't put a sign in your yard because you have an HOA, use Facebook, use Nextdoor, talk to your friends, put a magnet on your car, and just let them know who we are and what we're about, and let the admissions team know about that. After school, summer camps are coming out tomorrow. So be poised and ready. Some of those camps that you see there fill up very quickly. This year, we have also made tried to expand our after school program to include our holiday days off. A lot of our families, again, who work, need the extra care. So we offer that and will continue to offer that through the summer and into next year. Fundraising, probably one of your least favorite things. People ask, okay, so I've paid my tuition. Why do you keep asking me for money? I've bought my shoes. Why do I leave the store and you're asking me for more money? If you think about St. Benedict's tuition, we're very diverse, and a big part of our tuition is covered by tuition dollars. The pieces that aren't, the last 3%, 4%, comes from the Acorn Fund. It comes from your generosity. So if you look at the right column there, being able to develop our technology, integrate Spanish, enrich programs, all the extras that you think about in your classroom, that's what the Acorn Fund does. But it does a little bit more. If we get to this percentage rate, which we have done year after year after year, we're sending a message to the outside community that we're all in. We're a small community. We have two working families. We're all in. 80% of our parent participation is huge. And as we do that and send the message to those who can help us extend this mission, we're able to attract community foundations, family foundations, corporations, and big givers. So this is a big part of why we do the Acorn Fund and zero in on participation. This year, we're very excited because we've been working year after year after year to do some things. Our diversity and inclusion initiative has been with us since the beginning, but we're able to put some rubber to the road with that. And in the classroom, that means curriculum. We're able to enrich the curriculum that we have with a curriculum called Pollyanna. Increases racial literacy. And our teachers are going to be getting trained in that at next year's teacher training pre-planning in August. And then we're also at some point going to be able to look at who we are, what we're about, and do an initiative that allows us to see how inclusive we really are. And if we're not as inclusive as we think we are, and we're not as diverse, and we're not have as much equity as we think we are, they're going to work with us on that with the IDI that was just shown. Again, I talked about how the Acorn Fund allows us to expand what we do. STEM has been part of our objectives in our strategic plan for quite some time. When you think about STEAM, while it is science, technology, engineering, art, and math, it's more about integration. And Angela's going to get a little bit more into that and what that means. But big news, drum roll, we were able to get a sizable grant from the Guizetta Foundation because, again, your participation showed them that we're all in. $500,000 towards a STEAM grant goes a long way. This is going to be spread over 3 years. And the next slide basically shows what our deliverables are on that. So as you look through this, you'll see a STEAM coordinator. We're going to start with the younger grades. So first grade is going to be one of the first ones to feel that. Second grade has really been a part of building that STEAM grant. So we've got some programs into the second grade and further. But as you see, we've got deliverables. We have told Guizetta what we are doing. They are going to be measuring us. So this is really big news. And thank you so much for your gifts to the Acorn Fund to make this happen. Strategic plan, expanding facilities. Most of my friends and other leaders in schools have put everything on hold on their strategic plan, but we were able to look at COVID and be able to expand our footprint. And being able to do that gives us an opportunity for the future and expanding our facilities to make more room for an ever-growing population. Up to 3 sections in each grade is our limit, according to our objectives. Here's an outline of different pieces of property. Number 1, you drive on every day. If you have a 4th grader, number 2, you drive on. And if you have a middle schooler, number 3, you have driven on. Up north on the high part, we have put that piece of property on hold. Some of you may remember that we talked about 4.2 acres. We put that on hold so that we can focus on our contiguous property. So there are a couple phases to this and a couple pieces to this. If we are to stay on our main campus, the blue campus, the blue building is the nave and where your children are educated. We are able to do what we were going to do on that big piece of property, hopefully and possibly as Plan B on this main campus. So middle school will consist of 5 classrooms for 3 sections. So about 15 classrooms with an auditorium / cafeteria. As we build into that, we are not hoping that we will immediately attract 3 sections in each grade. So we'll have room for specials, and we'll have room for the extracurriculars and the STEAM program. If we are to grow into that, another phase 4, will be the yellow, where we build out the specials. And then phase 5, where the hive is now, the old Danco building, the gymnasium will be on that. The good news, next slide, is we've already accomplished phase 1. We're in the building. We were able to raise money in a sort of silent phase is what we call it. Some parents, some outside community givers made that happen. So we are through phase 1. Phase 2, 3, 4, and 5 are here. Phase 2 will begin. Again, it's a silent phase. We're going to try to be able to purchase the land out from underneath the building and have control of that. And that is happening now. It's not something that we're going to make a big fanfare about. Phase 3 will begin that building of the middle school. Phase 4, renovating this main campus. And phase 5, the gym. So this is a long-term, way beyond our 5 years strategic plan. If you know anyone who can make a large gift, let me know, or Christy Brown, who's our CFO. Those are grandparents, friends. And if you just want to get a group of people together to hear more about St. Benedict's, I'd prefer the word friend raising to fundraising. We're a small enough community where people are curious about what we're doing. They may have the means, they may not, to give to this, but spreading that spreads who we are, what we're about, and what we're doing. So let us know. We'd love to be able to host something at your home at some point. One of the biggest objectives that we have is educating your children, going beyond traditional standards. What we do in our 4 walls is equal to what other schools with large fields and a river that runs through it are able to do. We hired Angela 2 years ago to accomplish this goal, and she is hot on it. So I'm going to turn this over to her to share a little bit about what we are doing to exceed those standards.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us this evening. Kindergarten is the foundation of everything that we do. And so you are here at the beginning of your child's journey and you get to grow with us. And so we love that you have all of these years ahead of you to share with us and for us to share your children as well. And, we are going to take a look at what next year looks like, because I hope that you've had a wonderful kindergarten year. It's not over yet. We are just right in the middle of it. And so there's still so much more excitement in kindergarten to be had, but it's always great to take a peek at what next year holds. And as Brian said, all of what we do is kind of summarized right here with these 3 circles. We do a lot of research. It's just continual research of best practices. Every school has standards, but it's what you do with those standards and the research and best practice methods that makes a difference between schools. And so curriculum is what we teach. Pedagogy is how we teach. And then the assessment is kind of that measure of just to make sure that it really, truly is working and that these best practices are effective. Last year, when I came on, we partnered with this company called Right Research, and they helped us create an assessment management system. And this is an internal database specifically for us to kind of look at trends within some of our assessments and measure school progress. At this young level, we are not doing the ERBs. The ERB is the standardized test that we take, but we do that in grades 3 through 8, which is pretty typical in most private schools for the testing ages. And, your students in kindergarten, really those K through 2 years, it's continual assessment. There's so much assessment that can happen just through observation. And then, reading assessments and writing and math. We're not measuring all of those within this system through data trends, but we are carefully looking at those all the time. And so, as years progress, and your student does start taking more standardized tests, you'll hear a little bit more about some of those trends and where we're headed with that. Our 2020 priorities were created probably about last year at this time, certainly pre-COVID, but we knew that we were expanding and we were ready to expand our 5th grade to 3 classes. And in doing so, decided that it was a really great time to just naturally involve our 5th graders as middle schoolers. They had been, K through 5 had been lower school for most of St. Benedict's career. And our 5th graders have been housed on South Campus for many years. And, we have such a unique middle school culture on that campus that we really wanted them to make sure they felt part of middle school. And that has been a fantastic transition this year. As Brian mentioned, the STEAM program has been in the works for several years. And, at the beginning of last year, when we were planning these goals, we didn't know if we could get this grant. And so, again, kind of full steam ahead with our program regardless, but now it's even more exciting because we'll be able to pursue additional activities and resources through the Goizueta grant. So we're really excited about what's to come for all of our students. And then faculty retention and growth is obviously, a high priority for us, not only for continuity for the students and, the curriculum and pedagogy, but also, our faculty just love St. B's. They love your kids. They don't want to leave. And so we love that. Our professional growth is a high priority for me. I've always prioritized that with our faculty, and we have engaged in tremendous professional growth here in the last year. I would say highly focused on technology and all the cool extra things that we can do in the classroom to just enhance what we may have already been doing. And so who's ready for first grade? I bet if I asked your students, they would raise their hand, but of course, I bet I would get also some that say, no, I love kindergarten. I want to stay in kindergarten. So we have Miss Kendrick with us tonight, and I am going to introduce her in just a minute, but this is the full first grade team. So we have Miss Klein, Miss Kendrick, Miss DeHart, Miss Whitley. Those are this year, our 4 lead teachers, and then Miss Jungers and Miss Especia are our associates for first grade. And I am going to turn it over to Miss Kendrick to tell you even more about the curriculum and what they do every single day with the first graders, because it is definitely exciting.
Hey guys, I'm Susanna Kendrick. I'm so glad to get to be speaking with you all tonight. So first grade is such a fun year because we just see so much growth and so many light bulb moments, especially in students writing and reading. So language arts is one of my favorite subjects to teach because we just really see them blossom. And so Super Kids is one of the programs that we use that kind of is a tool that we use in spelling and in reading. So Super Kids is continued on from kindergarten. If they have been here, they are already familiar with them. If not, we do a whole welcome back unit where they're introduced to the Super Kids. And it's just a crew of characters that are their same ages that they kind of learn about and read stories about, and they kind of introduce our rules as well. So as far as spelling, we do it a little bit differently, where instead of giving them a list of spelling words, we teach them a spelling rule. And we teach them a rule instead of just giving a list of words, because we really want them to be able to apply it to all types of words that they're going to come across in reading and in writing. And so it's really cool to see them later on after they've learned a spelling rule and been tested on it, and they're reading a book and they're like, oh, this uses this rule or this uses this rule. And so that's a really cool way that we do our spelling, I believe. We also use dictation as a practicing tool. So dictation, I almost think of it as like a practice spelling test, where we kind of scaffold them towards it each day. So when we introduce rules, it's much more hands-on, where we're giving reminders of the spelling rule, we're tapping out sounds with them, sounding it out with them, really modeling how we want them to become spellers and practicing that. And then as we get closer to the spelling test, we scaffold them to do it more and more independently. So they're really prepared and have those tools when it comes time to test. And then our reading also goes along with it. So our reading and our spelling rules kind of go together, where they're learning to read the same things they're learning to spell. So those spelling rules are happening at the same time they're learning to read them in different texts, whether that be the Super Kids or just different stories that we have in the classroom for them to read with it. And we also do our assessments with spelling tests. They're usually on a weekly basis, depending on the rule. We always want to give them plenty of time to practice in the classroom. And so sometimes we'll stretch it a little longer if need be, but we always test on those spelling rules as well to see. And we always are incorporating the old spelling rules as well. So as they've practiced some, we'll include them in the sentences at the end and kind of always be circling back to those to keep it fresh on their mind. And then we can jump over to writing. So writing is a big area of growth in first grade as well, because they're at the beginning of the year just learning how to make a solid sentence. And then as they get that strength there, we build onto it. We want them to add detail to that sentence and length to it by giving us some describing words as adjectives, that we slowly start learning about those different parts of speech that are thrown in as they grow their writing. And then we also grow them in their sentence writing. We want them to be able to write multiple sentences on a topic. And so they grow in their writing of a paragraph as the year goes on, where it goes from 3 sentences to 4 to 5. And so that's a lot of our journal writing focus. And then we also use a lot of different stories as mentor text, which is really fun, and students get really into it. For example, we use the how-to, for our how-to writings, we do the how to catch books. And there's one to go with all the holidays that we have and then beyond that. And so the kids, whenever I put a new how-to book on the bookshelf, get so excited. They're like, when are we reading How to Catch a Snowman? That's the one that's on the shelf right now. So they get really excited to do that. And then, so they get to hear all the ideas from the story, and then they get to create their own inner writing that we get to do together as a class. So writing is a super fun subject in first grade as well. And then in math, we use Envisions, which is also continued up from kindergarten. And it's work mats where they're introduced to a topic on the front. That's usually where we do some discovery as a class to kind of introduce each new topic. And then there'll be some guided practice where we work together as a class to solve some problems. And then it moves towards independent by the end of the classwork. And so they're really kind of scaffolded into that as well. And the different areas that we cover in math in first grade, we go from numbers and operations, algebra, geometry, measurement, problem solving, graphs. So we kind of stretch and cover a wide array of things. And they are also tested at the end of each unit and do a really good job with that. We use a lot of hands-on manipulatives in first grade math. So we have our counters, our cubes, we have number lines at their seats. We really help students find what tools work best for them and encourage them to use that. So one student might really like counting with their counters and helping them solve problems that way, whereas another, they're on their fingers or they like the number lines. So we really like to help them find what that is their groove and help them go from there. And how to help for now as a kindergarten parent that is huge for when they come to first grade is their number formation, just making sure they're forming those numbers properly and looking out for reversals and giving those frequent reminders that they're facing the right ways, and just their math facts. So we do like our double stacks, like 1 + 1, 2 + 2, and all of that will really set them up for success as they come into first grade. Science and social studies in first grade are very hands-on, but especially science. We like to do it a lot more through exploration and activities and make it really fun for them. Also, it's usually like our end of the day when we're, tired from a long day. So we like to make it fun and hands-on. So we do lots of songs, lots of activities, lots of experiments, that kind of thing. And the topics we cover in science, we go scientific method and what is a scientist, healthy me, plants and animals, lights and sound, water cycle, weather. So we get a large array of stuff there too that we get to chat about. And then similar with social studies, we kind of cover a chunk of things from geography, continents, the oceans, which the songs that will come home stuck in your head as well, I guarantee it, because they will be stuck in my head for a month straight. So lots of cute songs to help them remember the different things that we're learning in social studies, important people, symbols, and then we have an economics unit at the end where they get to create their own business, which is always super fun. So we really enjoy getting to do these activities with the kiddos. I will turn that back to you, Angela. I think that is out of my scope.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Ms. Kendrick. And Ms. Kendrick will be on at the very end if you have to, if you have any questions for her very specifically about any of the classes as well. But I think you can see her excitement and love for this grade level. And that certainly permeates through the classroom every single day. So first grade Spanish, we have 2 lower school Spanish teachers, and one is Senora Miriam Castaneda, who teaches first grade and third grade. And then Marcela Garcia teaches second grade and fourth grade. And, just here as an example, this is actually an example of something they're working on this week. So this is from their lesson 12 packets. I happened to be scanning some into Seesaw and I thought, whoa, we'll just throw that on the slide today. But you can see, look at just in first grade, the level of, confidence that our students have, right? So, obviously the teachers are helping them to read these sentences, but the key here some of your children have had it since preschool, and we focus heavily on vocabulary. But then we are not just looking at those vocabulary words in isolation. They're then going to see them in sentences, in complete sentences. They are going to read those sentences, and then they have to determine, what should I do? What is that sentence asking me to do? And here they're coloring the article of clothing to those particular colors. So, this starts at such an early age, but, I can tell you, having come from another school where we thought we had a pretty progressive Spanish program, St. Bees is probably 3 years ahead of where my former school was in North Carolina with core. And I think the key, honestly, is that we consider Spanish core from kindergarten on. And you'll find in some schools that it's not a core subject until like middle school. And that is the key. It's that frequency with which they are hearing the language and experiencing and engaging with the language and the culture that really helps them learn, because those crucial years are right now. It's really ages 5 to 7 for, the ability to learn that second language. And then we have a fabulous team of co-curricular classes. So Miss Painter is normally in the library, and hopefully your first graders will get to go to the library next year. That is our hope. This year, she has provided a fantastic compromise. I think Miss Kendrick would agree, because I'll tell you, her Zoom story times are the highlight of lunch. And she started off reading one book a week, and then occasionally she'll throw in 2 or 3 because she just loves doing it. And so then the students get to listen to those stories while they eat lunch. Coach Goodwin is PE. We have Miss Tyler for art, Mr. Walker with creative movement. And that is like our drama program. I do know that your kindergartners love that class. They love all of these classes, but I see them out there in their yoga poses. I'm sure they show you those at home as well. Chaplain Porter Cade with Sacred Stories. And then obviously we get to see her every Wednesday for kindergarten. First grade next year will be Tuesdays for chapel, and then Miss Bateman for music. And so, this year our co-curricular classes have operated a little bit differently. And let me tell you, they've been, just so flexible as to how to best serve our students during these COVID times. On a typical year, non-COVID year, these 6 teachers would see all of our kindergarten through 4th grade students every single week. And so because of that, we're looking at like 300 and some students. We needed to make a few adjustments to our schedule this year, and so your students are, having 2 of them every month. And then January and February, we've been a little bit tighter with our, COVID restrictions and exposure, just to keep everybody safe, students and faculty. And so what's been interesting is we have really tried probably every possible scenario with the schedule that we can possibly try in these first 5 months of school. And so we are ready for anything. So what will next year's schedule look like? We don't know, but we can roll with it, and we will absolutely create the best experience for your students. So this year, this is a sample schedule. Now, not every single classroom has the exact same schedule, but they do have all of the same components. And so you can see here that, our students come in anytime between 7:40 and 8 to 10, and then every day begins with morning meeting. And so our students are gathered, either on the carpet or just at their desks. And the teachers are engaging them in discussion and greetings and modeling. And it's such a warm classroom environment. And the goal of that is classroom community and just building those bonds and friendships with each other. And then, some teachers might go right into language arts. Some other teachers might go right into math. Some of those are, a little different depending upon what times they have Spanish or co-curriculars. But this particular schedule, if this was your child's homeroom, they would have reading and super kids in the morning, and then 4 days of Spanish in first grade. So that is one change from kindergarten. So in kindergarten, they have 30 minutes of Spanish 5 days a week. But then starting in first grade and 1st through 4th, they have 45 minutes of Spanish 4 days a week. And then our co-curriculars, so they do have a co-curricular every single day, and actually sometimes 2. So it kind of just depends upon, again, the year and which co-curricular rotation they are in. Like I said, last year, your students would have had 1 day of co-curricular, at least for all of them within the course of the week. And so again, we'll just reflect on how this year has gone and see what what next year looks like. So we'll have, more details for you as we circle back at the end of summer as to what schedules will look like. This year, we have, because we are inside our classroom, mostly for lunch, we do have some extra time. Your children, it does not take them 45 minutes to eat. And so we often pair lunchtime with, like I had said before, story time. Sometimes iPad use with technology. If they're finished, if everybody's finished eating and we've cleaned up and there's no food, then we can get our iPads out. But you also see there's something called Frenzy. And that is something that we have in the classroom from kindergarten through 5th grade, actually. And that is a social emotional curriculum. And so it's it's kind of very similar to some of the activities that they would do during morning meeting, but the students really love it. So we really want to focus on the whole child and that social emotional well-being as well. And then this year, our recess has been 45 minutes, and I can assure you we will not take that away next year, regardless of COVID restrictions or not, because that has been fabulous. And kids need unstructured playtime. Absolutely. I am a very firm believer in play. And then you can see math and then social studies and science. With 1st grade, they usually are doing that in a thematic unit. So, they might do science for 4 weeks and then switch topics to social studies. And then the other piece to that, which is different from your year this year, is that your day, Monday through Thursday, is a little longer. And, we do stay that extra hour. Of course, everybody gets out at the same time with early dismissal on Fridays. So, your students are ready for it. They'll be ready for that slightly longer day come next year. Technology. So I can tell you that I think that this is honestly the best thing that has come out of these trying times, is that we are now a school one-to-one for grades K through 8. And I think we didn't realize just how awesome it was going to be. We knew in the spring it felt like a necessity, but I can tell you that just the extension and the levels of engagement and the independence that we've been able to see has just been phenomenal. So Seesaw has really boosted their confidence, and I'm sure that your children have shown you some of their Seesaw activities. We don't use it a lot in the school day, right? Because we also know that they're getting a lot of screen time at home. Probably a lot of our students are. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure it's always purposeful. And so that's something that you can, be assured of at St. B's, that we are not just going to use technology as a random tool. There's always going to be a purpose behind it. And so what we really love about the Seesaw program for our little ones is just that confidence and that independence, and that they can do all of those things that you see there. They know how to take those pictures. They know how to draw. They can take videos. They can upload things, and so that has been really great. So what I wanted to do is just share with you, I'm sure you've seen some of your kindergarten journals. And, I know sometimes when you look at your child's journal in Seesaw, you also see a lot of like maybe drawings and random scribbles. And the reality is it all makes sense, right? It all makes sense to them, and they can describe everything for you. But it is a place for them to have an electronic journal. So in between some of the assignments that the teachers are assigning, they can pull out their journal every day and write a story or draw a picture. So these are some of the activities from 1st grade this year. And this is, kind of a random sampling across the board, but you can see here, they have an opportunity to write. You can see their words there on the side, and then they're putting them in ABC order. So they can use, their finger to write. And that may have been the directions there. There would be also an option that they could put a text box and type too, so you can see here just some of the different things. And you can see at the bottom, how does hand sanitizer kill germs? We are all experts at that right now. So you can see they're writing several sentences. And just as Miss Kendrick said, we're heading toward that in 1st grade. And then something that some of you would have experienced last year is maybe preschoolers, if you were here. We are not doing this year because our Bee Buddy program is a mentorship program with our oldest and youngest students on campus. And so our fifth graders pair up with our first graders, and they come over to main campus. And so that obviously is why we can't do it this year. We brainstormed a lot of different ways thinking, okay, can we connect via Zoom? But I'll tell you what, those pictures that you see right there and those hugs and those smiles and those relationships that they build, you know, there's a level of being able to build that via Zoom, but nothing replaces what you see in those pictures and the activities that they do together. You know, we'll get together once a month and we'll make cards for the elderly, or we'll do some Valentine activities. We got together and did some Hispanic heritage activities together. So it's really a fantastic program that we started last year. And so we're really eager for the opportunity to maybe mingle a little more next year, right? Everybody cross their fingers, and so that we can bring that program back to St. Bees. So you are almost here. I mean, let me tell you, you are heading right into first grade in no time, and you all are the class of 2029 for St. Bees. So obviously, you know, our teachers just love your children. They love what they do. And we're so thankful that we get to help your child grow every day. So what we'd like to do right now is really just open it up. I'm going to stop sharing the screen just so that we can, you know, see the chat a little bit easier. And, you know, feel free, you can use the chat. If you'd like to type a question in there, we'll monitor that, or you can just unmute. We have a small enough group and we will answer your questions.
And we like awkward silences.
Brian always says we're really good at wait time because we do it every day.
Yeah. What will COVID protocols look like for the fall? The joke with us is the magic 8 ball. How do you answer a COVID question? Just shake the magic 8 ball. In all seriousness, we are looking to try and figure out the balance between how we spread out and how it's affected our teachers and how it's affected the students not to have 2 teachers in the classroom. So we're leaning, but we haven't made that final decision yet. The board meets in February, but we're leaning towards increasing numbers in the classroom and doing the same protocols that we see now. So as we think about how we do it now, with a little more density in the classroom and 1 more teacher in the classroom like we're traditionally used to doing, that's one way we're looking at it. We have 2 budgets, so we're ready to go either way. If numbers increase, if we see this new strand or strands affecting children, and we needed to cut back and do what we need to do, we're ready to do that. One of the things we did last summer, for those of you who may be new, is we met monthly. So we will likely continue that if things change progressively throughout the summer. Just have monthly meetings like this with the whole school and let people see what we're planning and what we hope to do.
I can answer that next one.
Kids, yeah, art rooms.
Yeah, just the non-COVID times, do the kids, you know, travel about? They do. And that's another reason why we're looking at this other option, right? From slightly different from where we are today, because the only way that we're able to spread our students out right now is that we did have to take away, you know, the music and the art and all of that. And so hoping that we will, with that new plan, we will be able to get some of those rooms back, and they will be able to kind of walk around, you know, and go see different places on campus, you know, as opposed to just outside. And then, you know, kind of just jumping to a typical class, pre-COVID, all before this time last year, our class sizes were typically 21 or 22 in lower school. But you know, we're not looking to go quite back that high. So we kind of have a middle ground that we're looking at. And again, we have multiple plans. That's what we've learned. You have to always have at least 2 sets of plans.
What I did piggyback on that, and typical class size for first grade is around 20 per section, 3 sections. That's I don't think we've gotten bigger than that for first grade. I think we've gotten to 21 before in kindergarten. So
Yeah.
we don't project that for next year. So it
Mhm.
could be a lot less than that too. It does depend on enrollment, re-enrollment, and teacher retention and that kind of thing. So Catherine, question about extracurricular sports. I'm assuming organized, and 5th grade is as soon as we start that with cross country. I think there might have been a few 4th graders. Angela, did you no?
Not for cross country. No, we
Yeah.
typically do cross country and any extracurriculars starting in middle school. What the only thing that we do as it's a little bit more of a club, but we do have girls on the run. And again, we had that last year before. It was typically like this time of year, February, March activity. So that might be something that you could look forward to at the younger grade level, but typically at our lower school, it's community sports, through rec leagues.
And you can unmute and jump in. I mean, we do have a rather large group, so if everybody jumps in at once, we might have to go back to the chat room, but feel free to unmute yourself. And
Hello, can you hear me?
hey, how's it going, Thomas?
Good. As I'm trying to weigh between sending my daughter, well, not sending her back, she's never been to school yet. Can you elaborate on the outbreak that happened at the end of December last year, and what are some of your lessons learned to prevent such activities, such an outbreak again, so I can get a better understanding of what your COVID protocol is and how is it being improved or modified?
Yeah. So one of the things we learned is we have a few teachers that have to travel to other grades, and the worst case scenario happened, and we had one of those teachers contract COVID, and so we do close monitoring of close contact. Why we did that was to give our in-class teachers a little bit of a break. And we have a certain number of teachers. They are able to do their lessons with the students. The teachers who are in the classroom can leave and plan and do the planning together. What we've done is a lot more restrictive, and it's a lot harder on the teachers. So Angela, you can elaborate on this, but what we've done is every week, each one of those specials teachers only works with one grade per class or per week. So if it's one grade, that grade will have that teacher. If that teacher ends up getting COVID, and that means a contact can happen from a student to a teacher. The teacher doesn't necessarily then secondary. So if that teacher's been in that classroom, that teacher will go out. But what happened was a teacher ended up with it and spread it further than we anticipated, is basically what happened. So we
Just
reduced
potential exposure.
the exposure.
Yeah.
That was the biggest part of that. Again, that puts a lot more strain on the teachers in the classroom, and it's another reason why next year we feel a little bit more comfortable increasing the density in the classroom. And again, we haven't made that decision officially. The board meets in late February, so once they okay that and we get into it, and then I mean, this is COVID, so it changes as quickly as the news. If anything happens over the summer and we have to switch back, we're prepared for that too. So that was a big lesson learned. I hope that answered your question. If you want to follow up, Thomas, go ahead and unmute and
I'll elaborate just a little bit.
Yep.
Only because I create the schedule, and in that co-curricular slide, like I had said, in a normal year, all 6 of those teachers that you saw on the screen our co-curriculars would have had exposure to every K through 4 in the course of a week. That's pretty typical in every school, right? And so again, if we didn't keep that schedule the same in August, we met and we said, what do we think? How could we lessen that, right? So that we could maybe cut it in half. Again, there's this balancing act, because if we take away co-curriculars, then our core teachers are in the room all day long without a break, right? And they need time as well to plan. And
your students are looking at the same teacher all day.
Right. Right. And they love creative movement and PE, and we want them to get those wiggles out. So we really cut it in half. That was our goal in August, was let's cut that exposure at least in half. And so for most weeks, most weeks out of that month, those teachers would have been teaching 2 grade levels. Occasionally, it would be 3 grade levels. What happened in December was that teacher had taught 3 grade levels that week. And so even that, cutting it down from 6 to 3, still, not only was it the students and their classroom teachers, because at this level, the teachers often go, sometimes, whether it's the lead teacher or the associate, sometimes they'll go to the co-curricular with the students. So if they've spent more than 15 minutes with that person that was infected, then they had to quarantine as well. And so I would say definitely what we have learned is it might only be one person that's sick, but the amount of contact, and that's why, I had to wrap my head around what contact tracing was at the beginning. And it goes from, one person sick to all of a sudden 200 people could potentially have been exposed, and now they need to quarantine. And so, I think we can honestly say, though, that from that, though, because we were able to then send everybody home, the true spread of illness obviously diminished tremendously.
So let me ask you 2 more questions real quick.
Yeah.
So with all the new strains that are supposed to be more contagious, does the school have any intent of getting their teachers vaccinated? And if so, are you guys able to consider yourself essential workers, as you definitely are, and get in front of the line, number one? And an unrelated question about the DI and E that you talked about earlier. As I myself am on the DIE for my organization that I work for, I'm curious as to how you guys are going to apply that for the level of that you have. Is there something in the hiring practices or in teaching, or is it amongst the kids? And how are you going to introduce a kindergarten or 8th grader to the complications, I would say, of DIE in the 21st century?
Yeah. So I'll do the first one first. We have a company that we've contacted. We've already done the surveys. We're not making it mandatory for teachers, but we are offering it. And we have a very high percentage of teachers and faculty, staff that want to get the vaccine. So we're sending those numbers to this company. They're going to bring trained professionals onto campus, kind of like we do with the flu shot every year. We offer it. We have nurses that come on, they give the shot. There is a 15-minute observation, so it's not just, I think it might take 2 days, according to the company. But again, the pressure is on our governor right now to open up this for our faculty. What's happened in Cobb County recently with a few deaths of teachers, that there's more pressure now. So I'm hoping that pressure will open up the floodgates, not only to make it available, but to allow for the 1B section to be able to be open. And again, we have that company lined up, ready to come on campus. To your second point, the DIE, we are working with Dr. Tiffany Russell. She's a parent, and she's been working with us for the last 2 or 3 years to really cultivate. I like to think of it as learning a new language. Folks that understand DIE, we're able to interchange words. We're able to use inclusivity as part of our daily. When we look around the room, whose voice isn't being heard, that's the first question. she's able to take it to the next level, and bringing in the Pollyanna curriculum has implications for every grade. So that curriculum isn't just separate from all the other curriculums. It's an ability to bring in and enrich what we're doing with our integration with STEM. Part of that is also social studies, and those of us who went to school several years ago and see the same textbooks that are in our classrooms now, it enriches that to bring in leaders that have been a part of the fabric of the United States and beyond since the beginning of time. So that is one piece of it. The other is to take an inventory and be able to, it's a survey where there's some pretty in-depth questions about would you accept, how do you accept, if you go to a foreign country, what do you do, kind of thing. And what it does is it compiles us as a group. So the leadership has already gone through this. The results of that then give us the spectrum that we're on. We're very high on the spectrum of inclusivity. Hopefully that rests assured. But as a staff complete with 100 plus staff members, it allows us to then use tools, and they provide the tools. And Dr. Tiffany Russell then will help us and guide us through using those. So to your point, Thomas, it's a long process. We're at the beginning of that. I think the thing that St. Benedict's has going for it is we're in Smyrna, and we reflect the community that surrounds us. So if you look at our student body, as our bishop did, as he sat next to me during one chapel service, he said, the other heads of schools in this area are jealous of you. And I was like, what, why? He goes, look at your student body. And that's a big part of what will help us increase who we are, what we're about, and how we use the language that we're doing. So that is you asked a very complex question. That is a very simplistic answer. And if you'd like to, I'd be more than happy to set you up with Tiffany and I on a conference call to answer that more in depth. All right. Have you been watching the
I did,
chat?
yeah. And I don't know if everybody's looking at the chat or not, but somebody had a really great question about, do we typically take trips, and do we typically have performances? Yes, this is a little bit of a non-typical year, but Ms. Kendrick answered that on the chat. And yes, we usually will go on a couple field trips a year. The Center for Puppetry Arts has been a favorite. Basically, we'll connect it to something that they're learning. Might be science or social studies topic, or sometimes it could be a particular play that's coming into the area, from a favorite book that we're reading. And then definitely we love to perform. I mean, your children love to perform. And so, a lot of times those performances will happen in the nave. We'll invite you in, and sometimes they'll happen in the classroom, but definitely through, special chapel days or drama. And then even just sometimes if you're in Miss Kendrick's class, they just might have a special performance for their parents. So there's definitely a lot to look forward to. We hope that you had a very fulfilling year so far, and look at all these great things that we'll be able to bring back when we can loosen our restrictions a little. I'll tell you, the leadership occasionally takes a grade level and we did this in the fall, we're starting it back up now, to allow like the first grade teachers to have a break at lunch and eat with adults. And so we all went in, and I actually happened to be in Miss Kendrick's room. And let me tell you, and I did kindergarten too. So, week after week, they are so amazing with really all the protocols that we've put in place. I'm not in there every day to see their routines, but like Miss Kendrick didn't have to tell me anything. Like, you walk in and they know exactly the routine to get ready to eat lunch. They're cleaning their desks, they're sanitizing, they're washing hands. They know, we're not going to talk while we're eating because we have our masks off. And so, you know, they're of course vying for which story, you know, they all want. Some of them are like voting for one, and then I find out they watched it yesterday, but they want to watch it again today, you know. So
I would interject that Miss Jenny's doing the same thing for their online group.
absolutely,
Just the
yes,
routine,
that
understanding the
routine.
routine. Yep.
That's a lot what, you know, kindergarten and first grade are about. And so I think that you know, I hope you see those things at home too, but you may not, because I know that with my own children, the routines go out the window at home, but they know those routines in school. So, you know, we talk in our middle school sessions about growing independent learners, but we're growing independent learners at this very young age as well.
Well, good. We've got, I think, sixth grade coming up in about 10 minutes. Don't want to cut it short, but we're here on email. You know how to reach us. Love to set up any meetings if you need any more in-depth questions. I think there was a last minute question: is standardized testing that occurs starting in third grade based on state?
Right. The answer to that is no. I started to type and then I thought I'll just answer it. But it is called the ERB. It is what most private schools take. We do not do the Georgia state tests. And we do not.
Education Record Bureau, if you want to
Yes.
go Google it. And there's a certain kind of test that we take in the midst of that. A lot of independent schools use this, and it's based on the independent school, which is sort of the top area of those who want to get to college, as opposed to everyone where public schools are. So we're really testing at the top of that. And so the results of that, a 50% on an ERB or 70% on an ERB is way up there, 90% if you look at states. So just to summarize that quickly.
Yeah.
And we can go into depth. Email us, because Angela, this is her thing. She loves data. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for your evening, for your time. If you saw someone that wasn't on here, let them know that we're recording this next 24 to 48 hours. Angela said she'll email this. It's also on YouTube. So if you're subscribed for Chapel, I think you can get there. Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks a lot, y'all.